Don't mind my water. I get a dry mouth from all the medications that I have to take. But my name is Schaefer. Good afternoon. Wow, what a great array of speakers and topics we've had today. And if you're like me, you've probably noticed there's been some overlap. And I think we're going to have a little bit more with some of the key concepts. And I'm very humbled to be here and to have been asked to stand before you and talk about this topic, which is how mental illness has made me a better person and enriched my life. My disclaimer is I wasn't a big old jerk to begin with. So my wife might think I am every once in a while, though. So in order to really kind of frame this the way that it needs to be done, in order to for you to be able to see the value on the other side of this, we have to really go deep down into the rabbit hole, which begins and ends with schizophrenia. But to break the proverbial ice even more, I want to kind of ask a question that we can all kind of possibly relate to. So by a show of hands, how many people have been in a situation, a conversation, or at an event where you later thought or said to yourself, boy, you know, if I could just do that again, I would have said this, or I would have done something differently. You wish you could have done it. Oh my gosh, yes, awesome. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is completely possible to do. Probably not in the way that you're thinking that it is, but for me, it's completely possible. Because for some reason, and somehow, I am able to jump around in time and re-experience events. And I believe this with all conviction in my heart of hearts. I really do. But some of you are going to say, well, that just kind of sounds like deja vu, and I'm sure many of you have experienced deja vu, where you're in a conversation, you go, oh my God, you guys, I feel like we've done this before. This is so weird. We've been here for the first time. Maybe I just dreamt about it. And it's kind of like that, and it's kind of how my doctor framed it years ago to me, but it's a lot more intense than that, because it's not just a moment, it's not just a conversation, it's entire chunks of time. It can be maybe a conversation, but it can be a whole week, it can be a whole years, it can be a major event like the birth of a child, purchasing a car. It stops me in my tracks and I go, oh my God, I've done this 5-6 times. But it's not just a moment like regular deja vu is. It is entire days. It can go for years. So the problem with that is very scary and very isolating. And I want to grab people and go, my God, man, how do you guys not see this? We've done this. I know you're telling me we've been here for the first time, but we've done this like 18 times. I don't know, how are we traveling through time? Did I fall into a wormhole? It's just very scary, very isolating. And not until I did some research for this talk today did I finally, after 20 years, find some people that experience the same thing, which is kind of good and not so great, because in my heart of hearts, you're not going to change my mind. Because you can tell me all the science that you want to. You can tell me the reasons why, and they do. They say, Joe, the frontal lobe of your brain probably went through a mass degradation, a mass dying off of brain cells. It's not wired the way that you expect it to be. It's not wired the way you want it to work like normal people. And you can tell me that science, and I can say that's plausible, but I can't believe it. And for you to try to understand how I see that, you have to think of an optical illusion. So when you look at an optical illusion like this one, you look at it, there's horizontal lines and vertical lines, and the horizontal lines look like they're at an angle. But I'm telling you the science. I'm telling you the truth. You can break out your ruler and do the measurements. Those blue lines are not slanted. They are 90-degree angles with the black lines. But your eyes and your brain are telling you differently every time you look at it. You know how it really is, but your brain is telling you, nope, they're slanted. So it's the same for me with some of these issues I have with mental illness and with schizophrenia. You can tell me the science all day long, and I understand it, but I don't have to believe it because I can't. So some of my goals today are to kind of blur the line in the sand of sanity a little bit, because there seems to be a collective idea of people with schizophrenia or severe mental illness. And it's no fault of your own. The media and Hollywood doesn't help that. And kind of show a couple different silver linings. One is mine. I mean, I hope I hold on to it. I'm in a good upswing in the past few years, so I hope it lasts. But the silver lining for me is I have found some good things about it and some value. And the other part of that two-part silver lining is if you know someone, a spouse, a friend, family member, an employee, if you're an employer, or their friend or their family member, give them a chance. You're going to have to give them more than one. You're going to probably have to give them a lot of chances. I mean, my God, my wife has given me countless, and she will never stop. She's going to have to keep doing it. But you might end up with something more than you ever expected. So the media, we're constantly barraged with stories like, man goes on rampage and had been hearing voices, or woman drives car to Arizona, leaves her family, walks to Wyoming, steals a mail, these kind of things. And so always followed up with, she had been off her medication for a year. You never hear, top-selling author had been hearing voices. Incredibly successful congresswoman had been hearing voices. These kind of things. You never see that or hear that combination. And so what that does is it helps us as a people, as a culture, start thinking that we have these lines set in the sand between certain types of mental illness. So if you've ever been stressed out, that's a form of mental illness, but it's socially acceptable. So a little bit of Breaking Bad. So the idea here is we can't say that, hearing voices and going on the rampage, or the other way around, rampage to hearing voices, we can't say that the correlation implies causation. There's other factors involved, but the media doesn't play it out that way. So we have to start thinking collectively to think about the other factors and stop being like, there's that Joe guy. He used to hear voices. He was hospitalized, really strange, and let's get out of here kind of thing. Because I do hear it, I have heard it, and I'm called flake, a lot of different things. So how does that relate to Breaking Bad? I love the show, so I had to work this in somehow. So we've got Walter White, if you don't know the story, and he's a mild-mannered chemistry teacher. And he is diagnosed with terminal cancer. He's afraid he's going to die and that he's not going to be able to leave enough money for his family to survive. So he does, what every other person would do, becomes the world's best meth cook. And after amassing an $80 million fortune, by that time, he's become a cold, calculated killer. Terrible person. So using the example, and this is kind of a reach, but I'm trying to illustrate a point. We can't say, well, Walter White was diagnosed with terminal cancer, so he became a cold, calculating killer meth lord. You can't. So when we get to the parts where I start talking about how it's made me a better person and how it's enriched my life, some of you are going to go, so you matured? You became an adult like the rest of us? You put on your big boy pants for the day? So when we get to that part, I'm going to have to try to show as best I can that there is a difference for me. And I'm not an expert. I just have my experience. I don't have a lot of statistics to show you. I don't know why the line looks like that, but what does schizophrenia look like for me? Let's talk about some of the beginnings. We have to go back to the mid to late 90s. I was in my 20s, engaged to a lovely young lady. We were in college. The plan was I was going to graduate, she was going to graduate, I'd become a teacher, she'd become a social worker, we'd have a house, 2.5 kids, the minivan, the American dream hoopla. We did not ride off into the sunset. In fact, we're divorced now, 2 years after we got married. And instead, at that time, it was the fall of my senior year, the sun ended up setting on my reality, on my mind. And it caused a lot of different things. We've already talked about the time travel and the deja vu. So incredible delusions, incredible amount of fear, depression, weight loss, lost my job. A lot of different terrible things happened because of it. And we'll get into more specifics in a second. So there's a magician, David Blaine. He went on a fast for 44 days. All he drank was water. And the thing that touched him the most was the fact that when your brain goes, there's nothing equal to it. So my reality shifted back in the 90s completely. And I want to touch on a little bit of a quote that I'll misquote. But your body is an intricate piece of technology. It can run on it can run on peanuts, and it can regenerate itself. So you should have a good relationship with it. And I think we grow up and we become adults, and we have a pretty good relationship with reality and our brains. And our brains, I really do feel, love us. So when my reality shifted and things fell apart for me, my brain tried to fill in the gaps. When I felt I was traveling in time and repeating certain things, my brain tried to figure out and rationalize for me. And if you've ever had a nightmare of any kind, you know what your unconscious can do. So when your brain consciously, you can't rationalize and come up with reasons, the subconscious comes in and fills it in with some crazy things. So that's where the meaty stuff of paranoia comes in. So during this period of time, I felt that people were wearing disguises, trying to trick me, poisoning my food, that people were imposters, that I had figured out a plot, because it wasn't just a plot to get to me, it was to get to each one of you, and they were connecting with you through the radio, through the TV, through inanimate objects. They could put bad memories and thoughts in something, hand it to you, and it would somehow, the vibrations would come through, and you would have them in your head. These were things I seriously believed. And like I said earlier, you can't convince me. I still have those things, but they're able to be pushed away after 61,000 pills got me to this stage. So we had the plot going on, and I completely had lost everything by that time. The doctors were telling me, you have this delusion, that delusion, you need to take this medicine, that medicine. I went on the medicine, I went off the medicine. Things got worse, I went back on the medicine, and it got better. But in probably the first 2 years after that happened, initially, I lost everything. My now ex-wife, her family, my friends, my career, my dog, I never saw him again. My mind, everything was just gone, all of it. So I'm a better person because of it. How in the world is that possible? Like I said before, I wasn't a big old jerk to begin with. But, and this probably will sound very strange, and it's very hard to describe for you. But when you meet me and when you know me, whether we're going to become friends or it's a business meeting or it's just, casual hello, nice to meet you kind of thing, you can be sure I'm going to take care of you as best as I can. Because one of those strange delusions that I have held on to is that if I traveled in time enough times, I might meet myself, but I might be the imposter at that point. So I'm going to take care of you because you might be me. So you can bet that I'm going to take really good care of you. You're going to have my full attention, excuse me, and my respect. Mostly because I have this incredible story and struggles. But you know what? So do you. Each of you have your own stories and your own struggles. I've become so much more aware of that you're going to have my full attention and automatic respect right off the bat. Compassion times like 1,000%. Boy, things that I could look at years ago and go, oh, that's a nice story, really means so much more to me. I think at the end of the day, there's just so much more meaning, not just in life, but in nature and in the universe. And it's just such a magical place that I've come to know that it is incredible. I'm going to give you the shirt off my back, even if I don't believe you need it. Only because you might be me. I have the ability to see things from multiple perspectives and different layers. I don't see reality the same way you do. I don't believe in the same things that you do. But I do remember who I was and how I was before. So that's me in the business world. That's me with my friends. It's me most of the time with my family, as much as I can be. But being able to see things from perspectives that you never thought of has helped me so much in my job as a marketer. I have up here, in parentheses, $1 billion plus. I've calculated over the past 5 years, I've helped my clients achieve way over $1 billion in sales through SEO and marketing, social media. There's a wonder and there's a joy and there's a fragility in just about everything and how fragile people are, feelings are, nature is. I've grown. Again, it goes back to that magical piece that I can't explain why these things happen and what's happening. It seems so magical to me. I know that there's something wrong here because you told me it is. I just can't believe it. And part of that has helped me just find so much more respect and love for this world that I never could have ever thought I would ever have back then. And freedoms, whether they're real or not. This one's an important one. Knowing that I get to repeat things. I get to re-say things that I missed. My mom passed away earlier this year. But it's good because I know I'm going to see her again. Maybe up here. But it's incredible. Because whether you believe in it or not, I do. Whether it's real or not, I know I'm going to get to have those conversations again. At least I believe I am. And that frees me from not being depressed, having lost her. It frees me from not being so sad all the time. And it's helped me move on quickly because I'm going to do it again. Whether it happens or not, I'll never know. Thanks so much for listening.